In today's manufacturing world, quality control is the name of the game. But what happens when you can finally see beyond the limits of the human eye? We're about to dive into a technology that's completely changing the rules of precision, an AI system built to catch what people simply can't.
So let's ask a serious question. What's the real cost of just one tiny defect? Because it's so much more than a bit of wasted material, isn't it? It's the downtime that kills your schedule. It's the headache of product returns. It's your customer's equipment getting damaged. And worst of all, it's the damage to your reputation. These aren't just numbers on a spreadsheet. These are major business risks.
And that brings us right to the heart of the matter for every single manufacturer: the incredibly high cost of error. The problem is, there's this huge gap between how quality control is supposed to work in a manual and how it actually plays out on the factory floor.
I mean, on paper, quality control looks great, right? It's this clean, step-by-step process. But in reality, it's a nonstop flow. You've got constant retooling, shift changes, and a million other variables that no textbook could ever predict. And that is exactly where the risk creeps in.
Think about it. The biggest mistakes, the costliest ones, they don't happen in some neat, controlled phase. They happen in those messy transitions, those gray areas between operations, right in the middle of a changeover or when a line is just starting up. That's when a tiny issue can blow up into a massive failure, usually before a human operator even has a chance to notice.
And this is precisely why manual control, on its own, just isn't enough anymore. Now, this has nothing to do with the skill of your team. It's about human limitation. The sharpest operator in the world still gets tired 8 hours into a shift. Their attention starts to wander. Assessments can become subjective. And then there are things like temperature that are literally impossible to see. Manual control just has its limits.
So if manual control has limits, the solution has to go beyond them, right? The answer has to be a system that doesn't have those constraints, a system that delivers automated precision, tirelessly, around the clock.
And that solution is CamContador. It's an AI-powered computer vision system. You can think of it as the perfect, tireless observer on your production line, one that never gets distracted, never gets tired, and sees details that are way beyond what the human eye can catch. So how does it all work? Well, the process is designed to be incredibly efficient. First, a camera captures everything that goes by. Then our AI algorithms get to work, analyzing that video feed in real time. Using some really advanced object detection, it spots any predefined defect. And the second it sees a problem, it acts, sending an instant signal to your team or your equipment. And here's the best part. This process just runs and runs and runs. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. No coffee breaks, no lapses in concentration. The very first product of the day gets the exact same level of scrutiny as the very last. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Great, another piece of complex technology that's going to be a nightmare to install. But CamContador was engineered to avoid all of that. It integrates right into the infrastructure you already have, using standard protocols like Modbus TCP. So there's no need for a costly, disruptive overhaul of your line.
Okay, the technology sounds great in theory, but the real test is how it performs in the real world. So let's take a look at some actual proof, straight from the factory floor. Our first case takes us to an aluminum can manufacturer. They were dealing with a challenge that seemed pretty small, but it had some massive consequences for their customers and, of course, their reputation. So here was their problem: the cardboard layers they used to separate cans on a pallet. If an edge was torn, or if there was just a tiny piece of debris, a can could fall and jam up their customer's entire filling line. A tiny defect with a potential for huge financial damage. The solution was actually pretty straightforward. We deployed CamContador to scan every single piece of cardboard before it was used. The AI was trained to instantly spot those critical defects, the torn edges, the debris, and signal an operator to pull the faulty piece. Just like that, the problem was solved before it ever had a chance to leave their factory.
All right, let's jump to a completely different industry, a high-volume bakery. Here, the challenge wasn't just about defects. It was about accurate accounting and material waste. You know how during recipe changeovers, leftover dough can create some, well, weirdly shaped products? These were technically waste, but they weren't being counted correctly. This was causing a constant mismatch between the raw materials they were using and the finished goods they were shipping out.
So we put a video counter right at the oven outlet. The system was trained not just to count every single product, but also to identify and keep a separate tally of all the deformed rejects. This gave them objective, real-time data, which allowed them to perfectly match up their production with their material use and pinpoint exactly where the losses were coming from. Now, our final case study really shows off the advanced power of this technology. We're at a poultry farm, where the most critical risk was something completely impossible to see with the naked eye. The issue was making sure every single poultry carcass was completely frozen solid. Even one partially frozen product could lead to spoilage and, in a worst-case scenario, food poisoning. This wasn't just a quality issue, it was a massive public health risk that could lead to huge claims and regulatory action. So the solution here involved integrating a thermal imaging camera with CamContador. The AI was trained to analyze the thermal data and instantly flag any carcass that wasn't fully frozen. This system provided absolute 100% verification, eliminating a critical risk that is physically impossible for a person to detect. So you can see how CamContador solves these very specific production challenges. But when you add it all up, the effect is so much more than just fixing problems. It's about gaining a serious, tangible competitive edge. Let's translate this from tech speak into real-world benefits. You've got the feature, real-time analytics. That gives you the advantage of instant alerts. And what's the benefit to you? Preventing costly downtime. Or take continuous monitoring. That eliminates human error, which means you reduce returns and customer complaints. And its seamless integration means it works with what you already have, letting you maximize your return on investment. And I want to make one thing crystal clear. This technology is not about replacing your team. It's about empowering them. CamContainer gives your people the objective, real-time data they need so they can stop hunting for problems and start solving them, making better, faster decisions. Look, things like defects, downtime, and returns, they are not just the cost of doing business. They are solvable problems. It's time to give your production line a new level of intelligence. Visit CamContador.com, schedule your free consultation, and let's start building the future of your factory's quality control together.